Dive into the heart of Cleveland's business community with the Cleveland Burning Podcast. Join me, Kim Kitchen, owner of Burning River Marketing, and Kirk Teets, owner of Cleveland Custom Coatings, as we explore the untold stories of local business owners. In this engaging series, we focus on the setbacks, accidents, and unexpected turns that pave the way for ultimate success. So just like the Cuyahoga River ignited change in the city, our podcast showcases how adversity can spark innovation and growth. Hear from passionate entrepreneurs who have braved the flames of failure and emerged stronger and more resilient. Get ready for candid conversations and a behind-the-scenes look at the business landscape in Cleveland. Good morning, Kirk.
How you doing, Kim?
How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? I was trying to explain to my wife a little bit about this podcast we're doing.
All right.
I was trying to explain to her that she should embrace her mistakes.
All right.
As soon as I got done explaining to her, she gave me a really long hug.
Makes perfect sense to me. Okay, well, welcome to the Cleveland Burning Podcast, where we uncover stories from local professionals who've braved the flames of adversity and turned them into success. I'm your host, Kim Kitchen.
I'm your other host, Kirk Teets, and today we're interviewing Bud Cygan from CFS Integrated Services.
Absolutely. I'm very happy to have you here, Bud.
Glad to be here, Kim.
And I've known Bud for, I don't know, we were trying to figure this out. It's been at least 7 years in our capacity as BNI. I know you've served on the leadership team in your chapter a number of times. Bud represents, although we'll hear more about his business, he's really more of a financial advisor, but he represents life insurance in your chapter.
Correct.
And then he comes to our chapter and he acts as a substitute when some of our members can't meet.
And I must add in that his commercials are the best in the group.
Yes, they are. Bud's commercials are always better than the person he's subbing for. He usually takes it upon himself to come up with some kind of rhyme or tagline.
He does a great job.
Yeah, he really does.
Thank you.
And it's also because of Bud that we're meeting right now at the Masonic Lodge, because you must be a Mason, right?
I am.
Yeah, big
For 25 years.
big wig on the Mason. You got your, they do the hats like in the Sassers and stuff. Like, do you have like a whole uniform?
Just my tuxedo when we do reunions for Scottish Rite, and I have my my cap that I wear for I just received my 33rd degree, which is the highest
That is
you
so
can get
cool.
in masonry. I received that in August of 2021.
So you're like a black belt in the Mason.
I guess it's one way of looking at it.
I love it. Bud, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Started out in insurance, actually, in 1991 with Prudential, doing multi-lines. It was a great start. Was never interested in financial services. Prior to that, I worked 19 and a half years in my parents' donut shop.
Oh, really?
And then they decided to sell that. And then at the time, I didn't want it. I had younger children. And it was just way more than I wanted to get into.
Or would we have
It was
known
in North
about
Olmsted.
that? Would we have known about it?
Mr. Donut.
Mr. Donut. Okay. Do you remember Mr. Donut?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I went to Prudential, was there until 2007. Got out of multi-lines and more focused on financial advising, more or less specializing in what I would call protection planning, life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care.
Okay. Whatever got you interested in that?
When I was doing the multi-lines, I had the occasion to meet a lady who had, unfortunately, her husband had passed away. She was in her 80s, and her 67-year-old daughter was sitting there. And Kim, I got to tell you, I've never seen a woman so destroyed. She'd been married almost 70 years, and she was just sitting there sobbing. I mean, there was no way you could console her. I'm trying to fill out the beneficiary forms, and she is just a wreck. And she's like, I'm going to have to sell the house. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to do this. And the daughter says, Mom, with Daddy's insurance, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I took my glasses off and I set them down. I said, what did you just say? And she said, well, it's Daddy's insurance. Mom's going to be fine. And that was one of those wow moments. This is what I do.
Right.
This is what I bring to the table. So when the unfortunate bad things happen, I cannot replace a person.
Right.
I can't replace myself. But what I can do is make sure that the wishes of the deceased continue. That you're not going to lose the house. Electricity bills and gas bills are still going to be paid. Everything's going to change except for, unfortunately, that person's not there.
Right.
We're not going to complicate a personal and an emotional loss with a financial loss.
Absolutely. I do some SEO work for an estate planning attorney, and I love his tagline. He says, leave a legacy, not a predicament.
Yep.
And that's exactly what's happening at that point in time. People, they can't even grieve because they're so worried about everything else, the house, the whatever. And so with that situation that you've set them up with, and they don't need to worry about that, and they can actually grieve. Not that that's any fun, but it's better than worrying that you're going to lose your house.
But I called a guy for life insurance one time, but he told me he was going to save me some money. He said me buying life insurance would be like a guy with no car buying car insurance. Suggested I go get a life first.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, well.
So, at the theme of the podcast, we try to, pre-warn everybody of what we're doing. What we like to talk about is, on the road to your success, you always have stumbling blocks, issues, problems that sometimes they make you rethink. I think a good saying is you don't wish for an easy life. You wish for the ability to become better and overcome the hard things in life. Right. So would you mind telling us about a time where you felt like you were in the middle of a total train wreck that you wouldn't get through, and how maybe you were able to overcome that and become successful?
Yeah. This was back in 1993. I was introduced to a young lady. She was second marriage. She had an older daughter from her first marriage, had no life insurance. And she was a referral from my sister-in-law, actually. So I ended up writing her the insurance. She was paying it on a yearly basis. It wasn't that much. But her renewal came up in August of 1994. And she didn't pay the premium, so it showed up on my lapse list. And I started calling. I kept leaving messages, probably 2-3 a week, that you're behind on the premiums. Didn't hear from her. It was October of 94. She finally called me and said, I've been getting your voicemails and stuff, and I don't know if Ellie, that was her daughter, said, getting divorced, and I'm now living out in Wellington. Now, we were sending all of the statements to her address where she lived in Avon Lake, so she wasn't getting them. But we made an appointment. This was on a Tuesday. She called me. We made an appointment for Friday morning at noon. I was going out to pick up her check and change the beneficiaries from her soon-to-be ex-husband to her daughter. I got into the office Friday morning, 8 o'clock, and the first phone message on my voicemail was from her daughter. Said, can you give me a call? Okay. So I called her, and she was, you need to talk to my aunt. This isn't going to end well. So the aunt gets on the phone, and I introduced myself, and she's like, there was an accident last night.
Uh-oh.
And the first words out of my mouth, is Linda dead? And she said, yes. She'd gone to pick up her friend from work. It was a rainy, horrible night. And pulled out on Route 18 in Wellington in front of the truck. Didn't see it.
Oh.
And she caught an 18-wheeler in the side of her Honda Accord that shoved her about 200 feet down the road side before it flipped the car into the ditch and killed her instantly.
Oh my goodness.
I had to now explain to a 21-year-old girl that, you're going to be trying to bury your mother with no insurance. She'd quit her job, so the insurance she had through work also quit with her. And I've never felt so bad in all my life, because I made a promise that if something happens, this benefit will be paid out. And she was 90 days past due. And there was nothing I could do. Well, I never felt more hopeless and helpless in my life as I did at that minute.
How do you even move on from that? I mean, I would probably want to quit.
I had contemplated that.
Right?
I thought, I can't keep the promise that I made. Why am I doing this? But I had, about 2 weeks later, I saw something come across the computer that the daughter had called the home office. And they were her attorney was requesting a copy of the insurance policy. So I called her and I said, I can get that for you. And we talked. And she said, well, I understand that, they'll still pay out on this. I'm like, there's a 30-day grace period, so that would have ended end of September. I said, it's not 90, I'm sorry. I said, in fact, I had and she was in tears. And I said, I had an appointment that morning that you called me to meet your mother, to pick up the premium, reinstate the policy, change the beneficiaries. We talked for about a good hour. And she said, well, at least I know my mom tried.
Yeah.
She goes, I can't fault you. She was getting all the voicemails.
Sure.
She goes, I knew you called. Well, then when I saw I had gotten thing from an email from the home office about this. And, did I try calling? Or did I try reaching out? And I immediately went to my supervisor and said, can you get me the phone records from August through October? And they got them for me a couple days later, and I went through them. And I highlighted because at the time, Avon Lake was long distance from Middleburg Heights. So every one of them showed up.
Long distance.
43 phone calls. They're like, well, there's nothing more you could have done.
Right. I mean, that's a good, I think, lesson in just that, stuff is going to happen that we don't want to have happen. That's just, we all know that. We do sometimes hope that people listening to this podcast are maybe young people just getting into business, and they might even be dealing with some piece of adversity, and it's just expected. At this point, you just kind of have to expect that things are going to happen, and all you can do is what you can control. And it sounds like you controlled everything that you could control. You had the calls, you were trying, and even the daughter got it. Like, I mean, she understood that you were doing everything you could do, and that her mom was just, in a tough place right after a divorce, moving locations, and she tried and was one day short.
It's out of our control. Yeah.
That is nuts.
So, but you do financial advising now, correct?
Along with the protection plan. That's a huge piece of it. Before you can actually start doing the financial planning and building, you got to have the foundation in place first, which is the protection planning, i.e., whether it's life and disability, actually having your home and auto insurance policies and in force and properly constructed, and so you have the right coverage.
Do you think that there's an age where somebody should think about life insurance, or do you think that that's kind of across the board from birth till?
Actually, the younger the better. I mean, in my time, I'm 33 years, I have delivered death claim checks on people from the age of 6 years old on up.
Right.
That's horrible.
It is. I keep getting on my boyfriend, Rory. We've been together for 5 years, and I tell him he needs to get life insurance because he's 48, I guess. Well, maybe he turns 48 in February. And he's got it through work. And he's like, I've got it through work. And I said, yeah, but you're not always going to be working there.
Right.
And it's just annoying to me that he doesn't. I have at least 2 life insurance policies. I have since I was 30. Well, I worked for Liberty Mutual. So I think I probably bought it when I was working there to hit my my quota. but still, and I got a whole life insurance policy because I wanted something that was going to last forever, that I wasn't going to have to, keep renewing. So I don't know.
So I've always been afraid to get life insurance. I don't want to be worth more dead than I am alive.
Well,
Maybe I watch too many of them TV shows.
No, it's one of those necessary things. And I always, I'm amazed that people say, well, it's not going to happen to me. Your house may not burn down. Your car may never get wrecked.
right.
But I guarantee someday, I don't know when,
Absolutely.
but that policy is going to need.
It's the only one that's guaranteed
Yep.
to pay out, right? I mean, it's without a doubt.
And the other thing I've also done in my career, from day one, I was told by a very, very wise, savvy insurance agent, there's 2 things you do. You deliver the policy, you deliver the check. Meaning, and I've told my clients, like when I get a death claim call, even if I didn't write the policy, I'll call them up. I've got the forms. I'll come out. All I need is a death certificate. Because when someone wrote that application, they had their feet under the kitchen table. And when it comes full circle, they're damn well better be an agent with his feet under that kitchen table,
Right.
filling out the forms, The other thing I'll do is, even if they have insurance, like these beneficiaries have insurance through other companies that I don't handle, I'll call the companies, I'll get their beneficiary change forms. And when I'm doing that death claim, I'm changing their beneficiaries on their other forms, and I will fax those into them,
But
just to make sure it's done.
Sure.
But I think I'd like to hear more about this, but I think we've agreed in the beginning to keep these interviews relatively short. I think we want to leave on a fun note.
Yeah.
Do you have anything anything going on in your business that you'd like to talk about? Anything new, exciting, fun? Any good stories?
Less death. Is there anything more exciting?
As far as, from the advisor standpoint, doing more with what's called managed money. It's a lot easier than using, I hate to get technical, A or B shares in the mutual funds or C shares. It's more no fees get in, no fees to get out. It's just a better investment platform, more user friendly. And
So when you do the financial advising, is it like like a stock market, IRAs? What do you
basically
work with?
look at everything. I'm not Series 7 licensed, so I can't do individual stocks or bonds, but I can do mutual funds, variable annuities, managed money, things of that nature. If that's what they're looking for, I have somebody that I can refer that business to, and I will.
So do you have like a bottom dollar number that you're looking for somebody to invest?
No, not really. I do like working with like younger people. Yeah, they don't have a lot of money to invest, but it's nice to get them started on that road.
Right. So what about, has anyone ever won the lottery and then come to you with like $1 million and said, let's...
Yeah, actually, it wasn't the lottery. I guess you'd consider a lottery, but she was getting divorced from her husband, and his
Could be a lottery.
401k was worth basically almost $2 million, which she got half of it.
Nice. That is the lottery. So that would be fun. I mean, then you got to figure out where to invest it and, put it places so that she will keep getting money for
her lifetime.
Yeah.
Do you have like a regular recommendation for something like that? Like, is there a percentage, invest a certain percent, maybe spend a certain percent?
Every person's different. So you have to really sit down and find out, what are your goals? What is it you want? And once we can establish that, now we can start, working and doing investing to hit those goals.
Like, I have a low tolerance for risk. I'm kind of like a money in the mattress kind of girl, because I've been through a divorce. I've made 6 figures and then nothing, so I just feel like I've been through the ups and downs, and so now I just kind of I want to pay everything off. I was talking to a financial advisor recently, and I have a 3.67% on my mortgage, and I'm paying extra as much as I can to the mortgage because I just want to get the house paid off because I don't like debt at all. And he said, well, with a 3.67% interest rate, you really should not be paying extra towards your mortgage, and you should be reinvesting that into mutual funds so that you'll have something to retire. And of course, I'm not taking his advice. Even though I know it's just advice and I don't need to take it. So I'm like, I just want to get the house paid off to have as little debt as possible. So I imagine, like you say, it depends on the person. If I came to you and had $1 million, I would probably, take a lot for me to just be like, I'm not keeping this in a box somewhere in my yard. I'm actually going to invest it. It'd be tough. So I would want low risk stocks.
Well, maybe you break it down in segments and say, okay, for money I need, 1 to 2 years. It's going to be fixed rate. For money that's 2 to maybe 10 years, I want to take a little bit of moderate risk, a little bit more. Because we know when this money over here in the first bucket is gone, I can slide some over. And then maybe in the third bucket, we're going to go a little bit more risky.
Right.
That's, 10 years plus. And then just every so often peel off and move it to the left and get more conservative.
Yeah.
But we're taking care, but now all your eggs in one basket.
Sure. Well, I know some people, they have a very high tolerance because they're like the day trading type. It's almost like gambling. They've got the money and they're practically going to a casino. They're looking for the highest.
Had clients like that.
But isn't that like when you get into cryptocurrency? I mean, that's when, you see a lot of people, they make tons of money, but then they lose it just as fast. Like, I don't know. I'm not into that.
I don't understand the cryptocurrency, honestly.
Did you want to talk about cryptocurrency?
Not, I don't deal with it.
Okay, good. Let's not talk about it. It's like it blows my mind. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bud, for being with us today. We really love your story, and we hope that our listeners are as inspired by the stories of your success, born from setbacks, as we are. I always remind listeners of Edison. He was kind of like a little bit of an inspiration about this. He says he's not failed. He's found 10,000 ways that would not work. I think that's key. So don't forget to tune in for more interviews with local professionals as we continue to discuss initial failures that contributed to eventual triumph in the world of business. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and we hope you did, please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
And leave us a review. I think that actually helps us to reach even more listeners. So
It helps our algorithm.
yeah, right. We're learning more about that. Until next time, remember that every train wreck can be a stepping stone to something extraordinary. And thanks again for joining us on the Cleveland Burning Podcast.
See you next time.
Take care.